Ah, a shelter for the night, thought Bill the Blighted, as he plodded down the road on his newly acquired war sow, and looked towards the village in the distance. As he drew closer, he noticed something strange, well, many strange things, about the town. He was for once glad of his stuffed-up nose, since he still had the remnants of his atrocious cold. As around the outskirts of the town were huge mounds of manure, in which a few peasants were digging. They seemed to search for something. As he approached the interior of the town, another anomaly presented itself. Since Bill was very well favored, it was incredibly strange that none of the women even spared him a glance. To Bill, this all seemed very out of the ordinary. He approached the inn christened the Mighty Toad. It was a small, shabby building, well lit and badly painted. Bill entered and approached the man who was doubtless the innkeeper, and asked, "Good sir, may I solicit a room? I can pay you handsomely." The bald little man answered with a nod of the head. Bill recalled his quest and inquired, "Sir, do me the honor of answering me a question. You see, I am on a quest to prove my valor. Be there a monster or being of evil in this district?" The man's face brightened in joyous astonishment as he answered, "Lord be praised, we are saved! Yes, fair knight, there be a giant of epic stature who has plagued this town for weeks. He wanders the countryside with a huge club of solid steel. If he is not slain soon, this village is doomed to fire and terror. Save us, noble knight, and rid the world of this foul monstrosity. I shall set out in the morning, if you can get me a guide. That I will gladly do." Bill had a plate of stew, a few mugs of ale, and then retired to the room he had been let. He awoke early that morning, breakfasted lightly, and set out with a bold heart. Oh, who was he fooling? He was utterly terrified. At least the lad who was guiding him seemed to have some idea what he was doing. They had been traveling for about an hour when a heavy thudding became audible. "I think you can find the way from here," said the lad, and turned tail and ran off into the distance. "You, get back here!" But it was too late. The guide was out of sight. A huge shadow as tall as a tree loomed overhead. Bill found himself staring up into the terrifying eyes of a colossus. "Who are you, puny human, who dares approach Aglator the Indestructible?" "Oh, well, there's no helping it now," thought Bill, and screamed defiantly, "It is I, William of Pussbubble, and I am here to make an end to you, foul tyrant!" At this he charged forward, as well as anyone who rides a hog can charge, and stabbed his lance into the giant's shin. "Ouch! You didn't have to get all mean. Now I'm telling my mummy." And at this the giant fled, weeping and clutching his bloodied shin. How utterly incredible, thought Bill, and gave a whoop of joy. The guide emerged from his hiding place and came over to congratulate Bill. When Bill returned to town, he was proclaimed a hero. He overheard a few pretty girls talking. "He is not very handsome, nothing to quadive, but they say he's a great hero. Too bad he is engaged." Bill was surprised to hear himself described so. He was no hero, and was startlingly handsome. This quadive must be a real marvel. This did explain the fact that none of the women looked at his comely face. This town had a better. He thought no more on it, and went to the tavern. The men there fought over the privilege of buying him drinks. He was obliged to drink great amounts of ale, so that all could partake of the honour. Not that he minded. A knock at the door was heard. The innkeeper called, "Come in, quadive, and meet the man who the lasses prefer to thine self." "Ah, the man more handsome than myself," thought Bill. Wait a second, that can't be the man. But it is! The man who stood before them was bald, toothless, and worst of all, a terrible hunchback. Called, "Come in, quadive, and meet the man who the lasses prefer to thine self." "Ah, the man more handsome than myself," thought Bill. Wait a second, that can't be the man, but it is. The man who stood before them was bald, toothless, and worst of all, a terrible hunchback. Called, "Come in, quadive, and meet the man who the lasses prefer to thine self." "Ah, the man more handsome than myself," thought Bill. Wait a second, that can't be the man, but it is. The man who stood before them was bald, toothless, and worst of all, a terrible hunchback. Luckily, as Bill was already drunk, he did not take offense and passed the night in revelry and ale. This much Bill had to admit. He had not slain the giant Agilgator, and therefore his quest was not complete. He had no choice but to continue with this ridiculous charade that was an adventure.
As always, the Mutant Museum would like to extend a huge thank you to its incredibly generous Patreon supporters whose names you see right here. Particular thanks to Andre D., Banana Fish, Metamorph, Michael Fattori, Wathgwen, and Zanazira. If you want to see your own name up here, it's as little as $1 a month. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and thanks for being you.